The sound of rain hit the glass like tiny knives, each drop slicing through the silence of my room. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, staring at Lena's last message. I can't do this anymore. You've changed. I need stability, not promises. I called her again, but she didn't answer. I called once more, straight to voicemail. My chest felt tight, like my lungs refused to breathe. I whispered to no one, "Lena, please, just talk to me." A knock came at my door. My sister's soft voice followed. "Hi, Mom said dinner's ready." I didn't move. "I'm not hungry." She opened the door anyway. Hira was 16, too young to understand heartbreak, too kind to leave me alone. "You haven't eaten all day. At least have some tea," I shook my head. She left, her eyes widened. "Lena?" "Yeah," my voice cracked. "She said she wants someone who isn't a dreamer. Someone stable." Hira stepped closer. "You are stable. You had a bad month. The investors, they pulled out because I failed." I cut her off. "She was with me when I had money. The moment it disappeared, so did she." My mother's footsteps echoed down the hall. "Junaid?" She called softly. When she saw my face, her tone changed. "It's her, isn't it?" I nodded, unable to meet her eyes. She sighed and sat beside me. "I told you, Beta. Love built on comfort doesn't last when comfort fades." "I thought she was different," I whispered. Mom put a hand on my shoulder. "Some people only love the light. They can't handle the dark," the words stung. "Then why does it hurt this much?" "Because you gave her pieces of yourself," she said quietly. "And now you have to take them back." I didn't answer. I just stared at the rain. Somewhere out there, Lena was probably sitting in a warm car, holding someone else's hand. I hated that thought, but it wouldn't leave me. Later that night, I walked outside into the rain. The street was empty, and the city lights blurred through the drops like melting glass. My shirt stuck to my skin, but I didn't care. I dialed her number again. Voicemail. I sent a message. "Lena, I don't care if I'm broke. I just need to see you one last time." A reply came after a few minutes. "Please don't make this harder. You're a good guy, but I need more than dreams." My hands trembled. I typed back, "You promised forever." She read it. No reply. The screen dimmed, and that was it. Forever ended in 3 dots that never turned into words. When I got back home, Hira was waiting in the hallway. She held out a towel. "You'll get sick." I took it silently. She studied my face and whispered, "You really loved her, didn't you?" I nodded. "I thought she was my future." "Then maybe she wasn't supposed to be," she said, her voice trembling. "Maybe this is just part of your story." I forced a smile. "You sound like Mom." "She's smarter than both of us," Hira said, trying to lighten the air. "Come on, eat something." We sat in the kitchen. Mom reheated some food, pretending not to stare at me between every spoonful. "Tomorrow will be better," she said. "Tomorrow won't change the fact that I lost everything," I replied. She frowned. "You didn't lose everything. You still have your mind, your hands, and your faith. That's more than most." "Faith doesn't pay rent," I muttered. She sighed. "Maybe not, but it keeps you from losing yourself." I didn't argue. There was no energy left to fight hope. I finished my meal in silence while Hira hummed some old song from the radio. For a moment, it almost felt normal, until my phone buzzed again. I snatched it, hoping it was Lena. It wasn't. It was a message from my old business partner, Fahad. "I'm sorry, bro. Investors pulled out. I can't keep going with no funding." "I'm out." I dropped the phone on the table. "He's gone too," I said quietly. "Fahad?" Mom asked. "Yeah. Guess I'm officially alone now." Mom looked hurt. "You're not alone." I stared at her tired eyes, at Hira's small frame beside her. They were my family, yet part of me still felt hollow. That night, I went to the small workshop we used to rent. It smelled of dust and failure. Empty shelves, broken tools, and a cracked whiteboard filled with faded dreams. I sat on the cold floor and whispered, "Why did I think I could do this?" The door creaked open. It was Hira again, holding an umbrella. "I told Mom you might come here." I sighed. "You shouldn't have." She stepped in anyway. "You shouldn't give up." "I'm tired," I said. "Every time I build something, it falls apart." "Then build again," she said stubbornly. "You always tell me to be strong." "That's different." "No," she said firmly. "You just don't see your own strength." Her words hit me harder than she realized. I looked at her, this kid who believed in me more than I did myself. Why do you still believe in me? Because you're my brother, she said simply. And you never stay down for long. I laughed weakly. You sound too sure. I am, she said. Now come home. On the walk back, the rain had stopped. The air was cold, but for the first time, I noticed the smell of wet soil, the kind that promises new beginnings. When we reached the house, Mom was waiting at the door with a worried look. If you keep wandering like this, I'll lose my mind, she scolded softly. Sorry, I said. I just needed to see where it all started. She handed me a towel again, then touched my cheek. It's okay to fall apart. Just don't stay there. I went to my room and sat on the bed. My laptop was still open to the old business proposal we had sent out to investors. It looked childish now, ambitious, naive, desperate. I stared at it for a long time before finally whispering, I'll make them remember my name one day. But my chest still hurt. I picked up my phone and scrolled through Lena's pictures. There she was, smiling beside Ryan Dalton, the rich guy who had offered her the comfort I couldn't. The caption read, New beginnings. I threw the phone onto the bed. Yeah, I muttered, new beginnings for everyone but me. The next morning, I woke up early. I hadn't slept much. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, sharp and uninviting. Hiro was already up, helping Mom in the kitchen. I poured myself some water and said, I'm going out. Mom looked up. Where? Anywhere that's not here. Running away doesn't fix pain, she said. I'm not running, I replied. I'm learning to walk again, she nodded slowly. Then walk with purpose. Outside, the city was alive again, buses honking, vendors shouting, people rushing to jobs they hated. I envied them. They all seemed to have direction. As I crossed the street, I passed a billboard for Dalton Group, the same company Ryan's father owned. The slogan read, Building Futures. I laughed bitterly. Maybe mine too, I said under my breath. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed everything. Lena's goodbye, Fahad's message, Mom's words, Hira's stubborn faith. Somewhere between exhaustion and anger, I made a quiet promise. I won't beg again, I whispered to the ceiling. Not for love. Not for help. Not for mercy. The rain started again outside, gentle this time, almost forgiving. I closed my eyes and let the sound wash over me. It didn't erase the pain, but it gave it shape, something I could fight against. One day, I told myself I'd rise. One day they'd see me again, and when they did, I wouldn't be the man they left behind. The mornings always started the same, oil, sweat, and silence. I wiped my hands on a rag, staring at the half-dead car in front of me. You and I aren't so different, I muttered. Both broken, both running on fumes. Talking to metal again? A rough voice teased behind me. I turned to see Mr. Khalid, his white beard stained with grease. Better than talking to people, I said. He chuckled. At least the car doesn't lie, huh? I forced a smile. At least it stays. He handed me a wrench. Tighten that bolt, not your jaw. You look ready to punch the world. Maybe I am, I said. He leaned against the hood. You think you're the first man a woman left? You think pain makes you special? I looked away. I'm not trying to be special. Then what are you trying to be? Someone worth staying for, I whispered. He paused. Then stop begging ghosts to love you. They're gone. Start building something that can't leave, I didn't reply. The air smelled of gasoline and burnt rubber, but his words cut through clearer than the smell. At lunch, I sat alone behind the shop, scrolling through my phone. Lena's face filled the screen again, laughing beside Ryan Dalton, the golden boy with slick hair and designer suits. He had everything I didn't. I clicked on one picture, her hand in his, diamond glinting in the light. Khalid appeared again, holding 2 sandwiches. You'll ruin your appetite staring at people who forgot you. I shut the phone. She moved on fast. He handed me a sandwich. Rich men are like shortcuts. Everyone wants one until they realize shortcuts don't last long. I bit into the bread, dry and tasteless. He's the son of Mr. Dalton, the guy who owns Dalton Construction. Khalid nodded. Powerful man. Ruthless too. He eats companies like snacks, I smirked bitterly. Guess that's where Ryan gets it from. Khalid looked at me carefully. Don't waste your anger on them. Build yourself instead. I'm trying. He smiled faintly. No, you're surviving. That's different from living. His words lingered even after he walked away. That night I went home exhausted. Hira was doing homework on the couch, humming quietly. "How was work?" she asked. "Loud, hot, endless." "Mr. Khalid still making you clean engines?" "Yeah," I said, slumping into the chair. "He says it builds character." "Maybe it does," she said with a grin. I smiled weakly. "If character smells like oil, then I'm overflowing with it." She laughed softly, but her eyes flicked to my phone. "You're still looking at her pictures, aren't you?" I froze. "No, liar." I sighed. I need to see her happy to know it was worth it. And is it? I looked at the floor. "No," she closed her notebook. "Then stop torturing yourself." I rubbed my temples. "You sound like Mom." "Good," she said. "Maybe you'll listen this time." I laughed faintly, but my chest still hurt. When everyone went to sleep, I stayed up in the dark, staring at the ceiling. I remembered Lena's perfume, her laughter, the way she used to call me dreamer. Now the words sounded like an insult. I whispered, "I'll show you, Lena. I'll make those dreams real." The next morning, I was under another car when Khalid crouched beside me. "You coming in on Sunday?" "Sunday's my only break," I said. "Breaks are for men who have something to protect." "You have nothing right now, use that." I slid out from under the car. "Why do you care so much?" He looked at me. "Because I see the same fire I had once." I wasted mine on hate. "Don't do the same. What happened to you?" I asked. He wiped his hands. "I lost someone too. Didn't handle it well. Built walls so high I forgot what sunlight felt like." I stared at him.
"And you're telling me to do the opposite?"
"Yes," he said. "Build bridges, not walls. Bridges take longer, but they lead somewhere." His voice cracked slightly. I realized this man wasn't just a mentor. He was a warning. That evening, while closing the garage, Khalid said, "Stay back a minute. I want to show you something." He walked me to the back room, his personal workspace. Tools hung in perfect order, blueprints stacked on a table. "What is this?" I asked. "My legacy," he said proudly. "I've been designing a small engine prototype. Efficient, cheap, strong. I want to pass it on to someone who'll finish it." I blinked. "You're giving this to me?" "If you want it," he said, "but you'll need patience." "And heart," I swallowed hard. "Why me?" "Because you don't quit even when you should." I laughed. "That's not always a good thing." "It will be," he said, "if you learn to control it." The next few weeks blurred together. I worked, learned, listened. Khalid taught me everything: engineering principles, negotiation tricks, even how to read people. He'd slap the back of my head when I got lazy and pat my shoulder when I improved. One afternoon, he caught me daydreaming. "Thinking about her again?" "Maybe," he grunted. "You can't drive forward staring at the rearview mirror." "I know. Then act like it," he said. "Dreams don't fix themselves," I nodded. "I'll do better," he smiled. "Good, because one day the world will test you. And you'll need more than sadness to pass." That night after closing, I checked my phone again. Another post. Lena and Ryan at some luxury party. He wore a white suit. She looked different, polished, expensive. I texted her before I could stop myself. "Do you ever think about me?" No reply. 2 hours later, I deleted the message and whispered, "You made your choice." Days turned into months. I started saving money, small amounts, enough to buy better tools, enough to keep going. Khalid's project became our shared mission. He'd say, "This is our ticket out of the dirt." But one day during lunch, he looked pale. I asked, "You okay?" "Just old bones," he said, waving it off. By evening, he fainted beside the lift. I panicked, shouting his name. "Khalid, stay with me!" At the hospital, the doctor said he needed rest, not stress. When I saw him lying there, tubes and wires everywhere, I felt something twist inside me. "You idiot," I muttered beside his bed. "You told me to build bridges." "Don't you dare burn yours now," he opened one eye weakly. "Still bossing me around?" "You scared me." "Good," he said, smiling faintly. "Means you care." "Of course I care," I said. "You're the only one who didn't give up on me." He looked at me seriously. "Then don't waste that trust. Finish what we started." "I will," I promised. When he was discharged, days later, we went straight back to work. He was slower now, but his mind was sharper than ever. "Pain keeps you focused," he said once. "Use it," I did. Every bolt I turned, every spark that flew, it all carried her name, Lena, burned into my thoughts like a scar. But this time the pain didn't break me. It built me. One evening, a black Mercedes stopped outside the shop. A man in a tailored suit stepped out. He looked like money. "Who owns this place?" he asked. Khalid nodded toward me. "He does," the man smiled faintly. "Mr. Dalton wants a quote for equipment repairs." I froze. "Mr. Dalton?" "Yes, Dalton Construction." Khalid raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, just surprised." The man handed me a card. "If the quote's good, there's more work where that came from." When he left, Khalid looked at me. "You know him?" "His son's dating Lena," I said quietly. He whistled. "Small world." "Too small," I muttered. He smirked. "Well, maybe it's your turn to make it bigger." That night, I couldn't sleep. The irony felt almost divine. Fate had thrown me a hint, a path back into the same world that had thrown me out. I stood by the window, city lights flickering below. "You left me for a man with power, Lena," I whispered. "Let's see what happens when power changes hands." For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel broken. I felt awake. "Hold it steady," I said, tightening the last bolt on the prototype engine. "If this explodes, it's your fault," Khalid laughed. "You said that yesterday too, and it didn't explode." Yesterday was luck. Today's precision. He leaned over, squinting. "You've become a perfectionist," I smiled faintly. "You taught me that mistakes cost more than pride." He chuckled. "Good. Maybe you'll finally listen to me instead of arguing." "I only argue when I'm right. That's what every fool says before failing." I laughed quietly. "Then I'm a confident fool," he grinned. "That's what makes you dangerous." We tested the engine. It whirred softly, steady, smooth. Khalid slapped my back. "She runs better than my old bones." I wiped the sweat from my forehead. "We're not done. This is just the beginning," he nodded. "I know. You've got fire again, boy. Just make sure it doesn't burn you this time." "I'll keep it under control," I said. "Don't," he said, smiling. "Fire only makes sense when it burns for something." A year later, the small workshop had turned into something real. Vortex Dynamics. 10 employees, 2 rooms, and endless nights. Hira managed the accounts, still studying in the evenings. She stood in the doorway one morning. "You haven't eaten?" "I'm not hungry. You said that yesterday." "I meant it yesterday too." She frowned. "You work like you're punishing yourself." "Maybe I am. Why?" I hesitated. "Because pain built this place," she sighed. "Pain doesn't pay bills." "Clients do," I smiled. "Then I'll make pain profitable." She rolled her eyes. "You need someone to stop you from saying dramatic things like that." "Who'd dare?" She smirked. "Someone not afraid of you." 2 weeks later, someone actually dared. Her name was Sarah Malik, the engineer Khalid had recommended. She arrived late on her first day, holding a folder and coffee. "You're late," I said flatly. She shrugged. "The bus broke down." "Excuses don't fix engines." "No, but people do," she said, walking past me. Khalid, sitting nearby, laughed. "I like her already," I glared at him. "You would," Sarah turned. "So boss, where do I start?" "Don't call me boss," I said. "What should I call you then?" "Junaid." "Fine, Junaid," she said with mock formality. "Show me what's broken." I handed her the schematic. "This design keeps overheating." She studied it for a moment. "Your airflow ratio's off." "You're choking the output," I frowned. "That ratio's perfect." I tested it 10 times. "Then tested an 11th, she said, smiling. I crossed my arms. "You're confident for someone who just walked in." "Confidence is cheaper than fear," she replied. Khalid chuckled again. "She's gonna drive you insane." "Too late," I muttered. For weeks we argued about engines, strategies, even music. She challenged everything I said, and somehow I started looking forward to it. One night, while everyone else had left, she stayed behind, typing at her laptop. "You don't know when to stop, do you?" I asked. She didn't look up. "Neither do you." "Touché," she smiled faintly. "You built this company from nothing." "That's rare." "Desperation can build miracles," I said. "Or monsters," she replied softly. I looked at her. "Which one am I?" She met my eyes. "Ask me when you stop hiding behind your work." Her words hit deeper than I wanted to admit. Days turned into months. Vortex grew. We got bigger contracts, better equipment, more clients. Khalid eventually retired. though he still visited on Fridays just to lecture me. "Don't forget where you came from," he'd say. "I can't," I always replied. "The scars won't let me." He'd laugh, shake his head, and mutter, "Poet with a wrench." One afternoon, Hira burst into my office. "Guess who's in the news?" I looked up. "Please tell me it's not me." "It's Dalton Construction. Massive corruption scandal. Financial fraud, insider trading, the works." I leaned back. "Mr. Dalton?" She nodded. "Him and his son Ryan. They're being investigated." I smiled faintly. "Karma doesn't knock, it barges in." Hira tilted her head. "You're not happy?" "I'm not sure what I am," I said slowly. "Maybe relieved," she smirked. "Relieved that life finally played fair?" "No," I said quietly. "That I didn't have to destroy them myself." Sarah walked in halfway through. "What's happening?" Hira grinned. "The mighty Daltons are falling apart." Sarah crossed her arms. "You sound like you enjoy it, don't you?" Hira teased. Sarah looked at me. "Do you?" I hesitated. I used to dream about this moment. I thought I'd feel victorious. But now, it just feels empty," I said. She studied me quietly. "Maybe you've outgrown revenge. Or maybe I've just gotten used to pain." She shook her head. "No one gets used to pain, Junaid. They just get better at pretending." A few nights later, we worked late again. The office was quiet except for the hum of machines. I noticed Sarah rubbing her eyes. "You should rest," I said. "So should you." "I can't." "Because of them?" she asked softly. "Because of me." She closed her laptop. "You think success will fix what they broke?" "It has to. What if it doesn't? Then I'll keep building until it does." She smiled sadly. "You sound like a man trying to rebuild his heart with steel." "Maybe that's all I have left." She walked closer. "That's not true." I met her gaze. "You don't know me." She crossed her arms. "I know someone who hides behind perfection, afraid to fail again." Her honesty stung. "And what about you? Why are you still here?" She smiled faintly. "Because I believe in broken things that still try." I didn't reply. My throat tightened, and for the first time in years, I didn't have a comeback. Weeks passed, and her presence started changing the atmosphere around me. She laughed easily, argued fiercely, and worked harder than anyone else. Clients liked her, staff respected her, and I tried not to think too much about her. But late at night, when the office was quiet, her voice echoed in my head. "You can't rebuild your heart with steel." One evening, I found her sitting on the terrace, staring at the city lights. I joined her silently. She said, "You ever wonder what drives people like us?" "All the time. And I think it's the fear of going back to who we were." She nodded slowly. "And who were you?" "A failure. A man everyone left," she turned to me. "And now? Now I'm a man who built everything from that failure." "Then stop living like you still owe the past something," she said. Her words stayed with me the whole night. The next morning, Khalid visited again, leaning on his cane. "So vortex dynamics, huh? Not bad for a boy who used to curse at broken cars. Guess I learned from the best." He grinned. "Sarah keeping you in line?" "Trying," he laughed. "She's good for you." I raised an eyebrow. "You think so?" "I know so. She reminds you that you're human," I sighed. "Sometimes I forget." He patted my shoulder. "Then don't." Later that evening, Hira called me over to the office TV. "Look," she said, pointing at a news report. Mr. Dalton was giving a press statement, denying all accusations. Ryan stood beside him, looking tired and pale. Reporters shouted questions. One caught my ear. "What about your partnership with Lena Moore?" I froze. "Lena?" The reporter continued. "Sources claim she's been working with Dalton Group as an internal consultant." Sarah looked at me. "That's her?" "Yeah," Hira frowned. "She's part of it now?" I turned off the TV. "Looks like it." Sarah studied my face. "You're thinking about seeing her again, aren't you?" "Maybe. Why?" "I don't know. Maybe to prove I'm not the man she left." Sarah folded her arms. "You don't need her to see that." "I know," I said quietly, "but I need to see it myself." That night, I sat alone in my office, staring at the company logo on the wall. Vortex Dynamics. My creation, my redemption. Every pain, Every failure had turned into this. And yet, deep inside, there was still a flicker, a part of me that wanted closure. Not revenge, not love. Just an ending, I whispered to the empty room. One last chapter, Lena. Then I'll let it all burn out. The fire was back. Not wild this time, but controlled, steady. Waiting. And I knew the ashes would soon have to meet the flame again. The call came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Mr. Junaid, the voice said, crisp and professional. This is Evelyn from Dalton Group. We're interested in discussing a potential collaboration on our new tech integration project. Could you come in tomorrow morning? I nearly dropped my pen. Dalton Group? Yes, sir. Mr. Dalton himself will attend. We've reviewed your company's portfolio, and Vortex Dynamics seems like the right fit. I paused, letting the irony sink in. Sure, I said. I'll be there. After the call, I sat still for a long moment, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop. The past had finally come knocking, dressed in suits and contracts. Sarah walked in with her usual confidence, holding a file. You look like someone just punched you with a memory, I gave a dry laugh. You're not far off. What happened? Dalton Group wants to meet, she blinked. Dalton, as in Ryan Dalton? The same, she whistled softly. That's poetic. More like twisted, I said. They want to collaborate. Her eyes narrowed. Are you going to say yes? I already did, she crossed her arms. Why? Because some ghosts deserve a face-to-face meeting before they disappear for good. She studied me carefully. Don't turn this into revenge, I forced a smile. I'm not. I'm just curious. The next morning, I stood outside Dalton Tower. Glass, steel, and arrogance stacked 40 stories high. Hira's voice echoed in my head from last night's call. Don't lose yourself again, Pi. Whatever happens, remember who you are now. I took a breath and stepped inside. The receptionist smiled. Welcome to Dalton Group, Mr. Junaid. The boardroom's ready. As I walked through the long corridor, my pulse grew louder with each step. The boardroom door opened, and there they were, men in suits, all polished smiles and shallow eyes. And at the center of the table sat Ryan Dalton, smug as ever, and beside him, Lena. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She froze too, lips parting slightly as if she'd seen a ghost. Her hair was shorter now, her eyes older, but the effect was the same. Ryan leaned back in his chair, his tone dripping confidence. Mr. Junaid, nice of you to join us. We've heard good things about Vortex Dynamics, I smiled coolly. I'd hope so. We've been busy making an impression, he smirked. That's what I like, ambition. Lena finally found her voice. Junaid, it's been a long time. I met her eyes briefly. It has, Mr. Dalton cleared his throat. Let's begin, shall we? The meeting started, numbers, projections, system integrations. But beneath every word, tension hummed like a live wire. Ryan tried to dominate the conversation. We expect full integration of your AI software with our construction data system within 6 months. I leaned back. That depends on your data quality. We don't compromise on integrity, he chuckled. You talk like a man who doesn't know the size of the company he's working with. I smiled. And you talk like a man who forgot that size doesn't always mean strength. The room went silent for a second. Mr. Dalton gave a polite laugh to break the tension. Gentlemen, let's stay professional, I nodded. Of course. Professionalism is the foundation of trust. Lena's eyes flickered toward me, guilt, pride, regret, all blending together. When the presentation ended, Mr. Dalton extended his hand. I like your confidence, Junaid. I think we can work together. Likewise, I said, shaking it firmly. Ryan forced a grin. Let's see if your small firm can handle big boy business. I smiled faintly. We don't measure by size. We measure by results, he didn't respond. He didn't have to. I could see the irritation flicker in his jaw. As I gathered my things, Lena stood up. Can we talk? Ryan shot her a look. We have another meeting, she ignored him. It'll just be a minute. He hesitated, then shrugged. Do what you want. He walked out with the others. The room grew quiet again, just the two of us. Lena spoke first. I didn't know you'd be here. I didn't know you worked here, I replied. I joined last year. After Ryan and I got engaged, I saw, she bit her lip. You've changed. No, I said. I just became the man you didn't believe I could be. She looked down. That's not fair. It's true, I said. You left when things got hard. Her voice trembled. I was scared, Junaid. You were falling apart. I didn't know how to help. You didn't have to fix me, I said. You just had to stay. Silence filled the space between us. I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioner, the ticking of a clock, tiny sounds that felt unbearably loud. She whispered, I thought about you, more times than I can admit. Thinking isn't the same as staying, I said quietly. Her eyes glistened. I'm sorry. I took a breath, forcing my voice steady. Don't be. You taught me what strength feels like, the kind that comes after everything burns. She nodded slowly. You sound like Khalid. You used to quote him all the time. He still does, I said. Only now I actually listen. She tried to smile. You really built all this? Vortex dynamics? Brick by brick, I said. Failure by failure. She stared at me, voice soft. I'm proud of you, I almost laughed. You don't get to be proud, the words hung heavy between us. She didn't reply, just looked away, eyes glistening with something between pain and nostalgia. After a moment, she whispered, Ryan's changed too. He's different now. I'm sure he is, I said. Money changes people. So does fear, she frowned. Why do you sound like you already know how this ends? Because I've been on the losing side before. I recognized the signs. Her lips parted, but before she could speak, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Meeting done? I texted back, almost, Lena noticed. Sarah, is she your assistant? No, I said. She's someone who stayed. The flicker of emotion in her eyes said more than words ever could. I gathered my files. Take care of yourself, Lena. Wait, she said, stepping closer. Do you still hate me? I looked at her for a long moment. No, hate is heavy. I learned to travel light, she swallowed hard. Then maybe someday we can… Don't, I interrupted. We already had our story. Her shoulders sank. And how does it end? With goodbye, I said simply. I walked out before she could answer. Outside, the wind hit me hard, sharp against my face. I stood in the parking lot for a while, watching cars glide past. My reflection in the window looked calm, but my pulse was chaos. Sarah's voice came through the phone. You okay? Define okay, I said. You sound off. What happened? I saw her. Lena? Yeah, and? She's engaged. Works with Ryan now. Sarah was silent for a beat. That must have been weird, surreal, I said, like watching an old movie of my own failure. Do you regret seeing her? No, I said. I needed to. Closure? Not yet. But I'm getting there. Sarah's voice softened. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. I know, I said. But sometimes you have to face what broke you to know it doesn't own you anymore. She smiled through the phone. I could hear it in her tone. That's poetic. I'm not trying to be poetic, I said. Just honest. Then be careful, she said. Honesty can hurt more than lies. I've survived worse. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on my balcony, city lights flickering below like dying stars. Every sound, the hum of traffic, the echo of rain, pulled me back to that first night she left. I poured myself a glass of water, stared into the reflection. You've changed, she'd said. Maybe I had. Maybe the boy who begged her to stay had died years ago, buried under failures and long nights. My phone buzzed again. Sarah's message, still awake? Yeah, thinking too much? Always, then stop. Tomorrow's another day, I smiled faintly. Thanks, Sarah, she replied. For what? For staying. As I looked out into the dark, I realized something. The past wasn't gone, it had just changed shape. It no longer haunted me to hurt. It existed to remind me of how far I'd come. And somewhere, deep inside, a small voice whispered, the fire that destroyed you once is now the one lighting your way. Sarah slammed a folder onto my desk. You've been watching Dalton Group again. I didn't look up. Observation is good business. Obsession isn't, she shot back. You're playing with fire, Junaid. I leaned back in my chair. Fire built this company. It also burns everything it touches. I met her gaze. Then maybe some things deserve to burn, she sighed. You're talking about revenge. I'm talking about opportunity, I said calmly. Their stock's collapsing. The board's desperate. If I move fast, I can buy them piece by piece. Because that's what you really want, right? Not profit, power. Maybe they're the same thing, I said. Sarah crossed her arms. You're not the man who started this company anymore. I smiled faintly. Good, that man was broke and naive. Her voice softened. He was human. I looked away. Humans get stepped on. By the end of the week, I had silent partners. Investors who believed in my vision, or maybe in my hatred. Either way, money flowed. I started acquiring Dalton Group shares through intermediaries. No one noticed at first. At the office, Hira barged in one afternoon holding a newspaper. You're on the business front page. I frowned. That's not good, she grinned. Actually, it is. They called you the silent wolf of the tech sector. Not sure that's flattering. Sarah leaned against the doorframe. Wolves don't build, they hunt. I glanced at her. And sometimes hunting is the only way to survive. She didn't argue. She just looked tired. How far are you going to go, Junaid? Far enough, I said. Weeks passed. Dalton Group kept bleeding. Each day brought another scandal. Fake invoices, bribes, leaked documents. Their investors ran scared, and I bought what they dropped. One evening, I attended a business conference downtown. Ryan Dalton was there, surrounded by cameras and champagne. When he saw me, his grin turned sharp. Well, if it isn't the broke boy who fixed cars, he said loudly, making sure others heard. How's life in the scrapyard? I smiled coolly. Cleaner than your balance sheets, I'd say, he laughed. You talk big for someone who used to beg my father for a loan. And you talk loud for someone about to lose everything, I said quietly. His smirk faltered for a second before he hid it behind a laugh. You think you can touch us? Dalton Group has roots deeper than your ego. Roots rot too, I said, turning away. All it takes is time and truth, he shouted after me. You'll always be nothing, Junaid. A street boy pretending to be a king. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. A month later, the headline hit every news channel. Dalton Group CFO accused of insider trading. CEO's son implicated. Sarah stormed into my office that morning. Tell me you had nothing to do with this. I didn't break any laws, I said. That's not an answer. It's the truth. She slammed her hand on the table. You leaked it, didn't you? I stayed silent, she groaned. You're walking a line so thin it's invisible. I'm not doing anything illegal, I repeated. That doesn't make it right. I looked up. He humiliated me, Sarah, in front of everyone. His family crushed others for fun. You want me to feel sorry now? I want you to stop losing yourself, she said quietly. I'm just taking back what's mine. She shook her head. You're taking everything, even things that were never yours to begin with. Then maybe I'm finally even. Sarah's eyes softened. Revenge doesn't make you even. It just makes you tired, I exhaled slowly. Then maybe I need to feel that kind of exhaustion. A week later, I got a message. Unknown number, can we talk? Lena. I stared at it for a full minute before replying. Why? Her answer came quickly. I need to see you, please. Against every reason in my head, I agreed. The cafe was quiet, tucked in a corner of downtown where no one cared who you were. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window. When she saw me, she smiled faintly. You look different. Money does that, I said. She winced. I deserve that, I sat down. You wanted to talk. Go ahead. She hesitated, fingers trembling around her cup. Ryan's been cheating on me. I stayed silent. He's been seeing someone from the accounting team. Everyone knows, but no one tells me. I found out from the tabloids. Still, I said nothing. She looked up, desperate. Say something, Junaid. What do you want me to say? Anything. I don't know. I thought you'd understand. Understand what? I asked. How it feels to be betrayed? I almost laughed. You think I don't? Her eyes filled. I made mistakes. I was young, scared. No, I interrupted. You were selfish, she flinched. I'm sorry, I leaned forward. You left when I was drowning. Now you're drowning and you came looking for the man who learned to swim. Her voice cracked. I didn't come here to beg. Then why are you here?
Because you're the only person who ever saw me for who I was. I shook my head.
No, Lena, I saw who you could have been. There's a difference. She reached across the table. I didn't come for forgiveness. I came because I can't stop thinking about you. I pulled my hand away. That's nostalgia, not love. Her voice broke. I miss what we had. What we had was a fantasy. I said coldly. You loved the idea of me until reality showed up? Tears welled in her eyes.
You really don't feel anything, do you?
I looked at her, really looked, and realized she was right. I didn't, not anger, not desire, not even pity. Just silence, I used to, I said quietly. But you burned it out of me. She covered her face, sobbing quietly. I deserve this. Maybe, I said. Or maybe you just deserve peace. She looked up, broken. You've changed so much. No, I said. You just finally met the version of me you created, she whispered. He scares me. He scares me too sometimes, I admitted. Her hand trembled. Then stop before it's too late. I stood up. Too late for what? For you to still recognize yourself? I paused, then said, maybe I already don't. I left her there, tears glistening against the light. Outside, the cold air hit me like truth. My reflection in the cafe window looked sharp, composed, unreachable. The man who once begged her to stay no longer existed. When I got back to the office, Sarah was waiting. You met her, didn't you? Yes, her expression was unreadable. And? She's miserable. Do you care? I thought for a second. No, Sarah studied me. That scares me more than if you'd said yes. I sat down. Emotions slow you down. Emotions make you human, she said. Being human didn't help me before. It made you real. I looked at her. Do you ever regret believing in me? Every day, she said softly. And every day I still choose to. Her honesty stung worse than any insult. Over the next month, Dalton Group imploded. Their board fractured, their project stalled. My shares grew quietly until I became the largest minority stakeholder. At a private investor dinner, Mr. Dalton himself approached me. You've been busy, he said. Business requires focus, I replied. He smiled thinly. Focus can look like revenge if you're not careful. Maybe they're the same thing, I said. He chuckled. You remind me of myself at your age, hungry, dangerous, sure you can change the world. Did you? I asked. I built one, he said. Then watched it rot. I raised my glass. Then maybe it's time for a new one. He smirked. You really think you can take my empire? I smiled. I don't need to take it. It's already collapsing. He stared at me, measuring my calm. Be careful, Junid. Power has a price. It'll take everything, your soul, your sleep, your smile. I held his gaze. Then it can take the smile. I've lived without it before. That night I drove home in silence. City lights streaked across the windshield like ghosts. I thought about Lena's tears, Sarah's warnings, Khalid's wisdom echoing in my head. Pain is a better teacher than success. Maybe he was right. But pain wasn't just a teacher, it was an addiction, and I was hooked. At home, I sat in the dark, staring at the skyline. My phone buzzed with notifications, markets, emails, offers, but all I heard was Lena's voice. He scares me. Sarah's too. You're losing yourself. Maybe they were both right. Maybe power wasn't something you owned. It was something that owned you. I whispered into the quiet. What's the price of victory if it costs your peace? No answer came, just the hum of the city outside, a city built on ambition and ruin. And I sat there, realizing that I had everything I once wanted, yet somehow, I'd never felt emptier. The day the papers were signed, I didn't feel triumph. I felt silence. The glass walls of the Dalton Group headquarters shimmered under the morning sun. Reporters crowded outside, flashes lighting up like sparks. One of them shouted, Mr. Junaid! How does it feel to own the company that once rejected you? I smiled faintly. Poetic. Another voice called out, Do you see this as revenge? I met their eyes. No, I see it as balance. Inside, the air was cold, sharp with expensive perfume and panic. Employees whispered as I walked through the hallway, the new king walking through the ruins of an old empire. In the conference room, Mr. Dalton waited. He looked older, thinner, his confidence cracked. His suit was perfect, but his eyes weren't. He stood when I entered. Junaid, he said, forcing a smile. Congratulations, I suppose. Suppose? I asked. He exhaled. You won. But I doubt you understand what it cost. I understand perfectly, I said. I paid every installment with years of pain. He gestured for me to sit. You don't have to destroy everything, you know? We can negotiate. I can still help you run this place. I sat across from him, calm. Help me? The same way you helped your shareholders lose millions? His jaw tightened. You've made your point. You've humiliated me publicly. I didn't humiliate you, I said evenly. Your choices did. He slammed his hand on the table. You think you're better than me? No, I said quietly. Just smarter about what not to become. The silence stretched. Finally, he muttered, Enjoy your victory. You'll find it's lonelier at the top than you think. I stood. I've been alone for years. I'm used to the view. When I walked out, I heard him whisper something. Maybe a curse, maybe regret. Either way, it didn't matter. The story had already been written. Hours later, the press release hit every news outlet. Vortex Dynamics acquires Dalton Group in landmark takeover. Headlines called it a poetic twist of fate. I didn't read the articles. I didn't need to. Back in my new office, the same one where I'd once been told, come back when you're worth our time, I stood by the window, watching the city hum below. Sarah entered without knocking. So it's done. It's done, I said. She studied me. You don't look happy. I didn't do it for happiness. Then for what? For closure, she shook her head. Closure isn't bought, Junaid. I turned toward her. You think I don't know that? I think you're pretending you do, she said softly. You've been chasing ghosts, I exhaled. Maybe, but sometimes ghosts need to see what they missed. She frowned. That's not peace. That's pride, I smiled faintly. Sometimes they look the same. Around noon, the secretary announced, A Ms. Lena Moore is here to see you. For a moment, I froze. Then I said, Send her in. The door opened slowly. Lena stepped in, dressed in white, elegant but worn. Her eyes were softer now, no arrogance, just tiredness. Congratulations, she said quietly. Thanks, I said. I didn't expect you. I wasn't sure I'd come, and yet you did. She looked around the office. You replaced the painting. It didn't fit, I said. Too pretentious. She gave a small, sad laugh. You always hated fake things. I had enough of them, I replied. She hesitated before sitting down. I wanted to see you. To say I'm sorry. For what exactly? For leaving. For doubting you. For everything, I nodded slowly. Apology accepted, she blinked. Just like that? There's no point holding on anymore, I said. Her voice cracked. You make it sound easy. It wasn't, I said. But I learned that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. She lowered her eyes. You've changed. I had to. She looked up. I was stupid. No, I said. You just wanted an easier life. She flinched at the words. Ryan's gone. He left the country after the scandal. He blamed me, I sighed. And you believed him? I believed everything he said, until it all collapsed. Now you know how it feels, I said quietly. Tears welled in her eyes. You're not angry? Not anymore, she stared at me. You really don't love me anymore, do you? I shook my head. No. I think I loved what you made me believe love was supposed to be, but it wasn't real. Her voice trembled. Then what is real to you now? I looked at her. Peace. She reached for my hand. I'm happy for you. I stepped back. Don't be. I didn't find peace in victory. I found it in letting go. She smiled weakly through her tears. You always said you'd make the world remember your name. You did. At a cost, I said. Her eyes softened. Then stop paying it. You've won, Junaid. Let it end here, I nodded. It already has. She stood up, wiping her eyes. Goodbye, then. Goodbye, Lena. As she walked to the door, I added, You taught me what love shouldn't feel like. She stopped, her voice breaking. I guess that's something. It is, I said quietly. More than you think. She left without looking back. After she was gone, I sat in silence for a long time. The hum of the air conditioning filled the room. I looked around at everything, the desk, the city view, the glass walls, and realized that none of it felt like victory. It felt like survival. Sarah found me hours later. Still here? Where else would I be? She walked over and placed a cup of coffee on the desk. You could be home or asleep. Or free. I gave a faint laugh. Freedom's overrated. No, it's not, she said. You just forgot how to feel it. I looked at her. You think I've lost myself. I think you finally caught the world you were chasing. You just don't know what to do with it. Her honesty cut deeper than any insult. You're probably right. Sarah leaned on the desk. So what now? I rebuild, I said. But this time without hate. She smiled slightly. That's the best thing you've said all week. I mean it. I know you do, she said softly. And that's why I'm still here. I looked up. You didn't have to be. I wanted to be, she replied. Someone has to remind you that peace doesn't mean silence. I smiled faintly. You're terrible at letting me be miserable. It's my job, I laughed quietly. I don't remember assigning it. You didn't. I promoted myself. Sounds like something I'd do. That's why it works, she said with a grin. Later that evening, I stepped out onto the rooftop. The city stretched beneath me, neon, chaos, life. For years it had felt like an enemy. Now it felt like a story I'd finally finished writing. Sarah joined me a few minutes later, holding her coat close against the wind. You're still thinking about her, she said. Maybe, but not in the way you think. How then? Like an old chapter. Important but over, she nodded slowly. That's how healing starts. I glanced at her. You believe in healing? I have to. I work with you, I laughed. Fair point. We stood in silence for a while, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in gold and red, like the world had finally stopped running. She said softly, You know, I never asked what you felt when the deal was finalized. I thought for a moment. Nothing. Nothing? Not joy. Not anger, just calm. Like I finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. She smiled. Then maybe that's what peace feels like. Maybe, I said. It's strange. I used to think success would roar. Turns out it whispers. That's because noise comes from chasing. Silence comes from arriving. Her words settled into me like truth. I turned to her. You always know what to say, she shrugged. I've had practice. You're a walking storm. And you? She smiled. I'm the one who builds roofs. I laughed softly. Then stay close. I still need one. She looked out at the horizon. I'm not going anywhere. The city lights flickered to life beneath us, a sea of motion and memory. I watched the place that had broken me, tested me, and finally bowed before me. And for the first time, I smiled, not because I'd won, but because I no longer needed to. A year can change everything. Vortex Dynamics had gone global, offices in Dubai, London, Singapore. The same city that once ignored my name now invited me to give speeches about resilience. I never called it that. I called it survival. One morning, Sarah stood by my office window watching the skyline. You realize, she said, we're officially one of the top 5 firms in Asia? I smiled. I realize that means more sleepless nights. She laughed. You could just enjoy it for once. I don't know how. Learn, she said, handing me coffee. The world finally stopped trying to bury you. I took a sip. The world just changed where it hides the shovels. Sarah shook her head, amused. You're impossible, I've been told. By who? I grinned. Everyone who ever tried to love me, she smirked. Then I guess I'm next, I looked at her. You already are. Her eyes softened, but she didn't reply. She just smiled, the kind of smile that said she understood without needing words. That evening, I visited my mother. She was sitting in the garden, her shawl wrapped around her shoulders. Hira was beside her reading from a medical journal. Dr. Hira? I teased. Saving lives yet? She looked up, beaming. Soon. You promised to fund my clinic, remember? I remember, I said. You just have to graduate first. Already did, she said proudly. With distinction, Mom smiled faintly. She gets that from me, I laughed. Definitely not from me. Mom's voice was soft. You both grew up too fast, I knelt beside her. You taught us how, she touched my cheek. I taught you to be kind, not ruthless. I learned kindness after the war ended, I said quietly. Her eyes met mine. Has it ended? I thought for a moment. Almost, she nodded knowingly. Then let it end fully, Beta. That night, Sarah and I sat on the balcony of my apartment. The city glittered below, alive but distant. She asked, Do you ever miss who you used to be? I leaned back in my chair. Sometimes. He was simpler. He believed people meant what they said. And now? Now I believe actions louder than promises. She sipped her drink. Fair enough. But I like that part of you, I turned to her. The dreamer? The believer, she said. The man who built something from nothing because he refused to give up. I smiled faintly. He's still here, just quieter, she nodded. Good. Don't let success silence him. I looked at her. You always sound like Khalid when you talk like that, she smiled. Someone has to keep you humble, I laughed softly. Good luck with that. The next day, I attended the inauguration of the Phoenix Foundation, my initiative to fund startups run by people who'd lost everything, like I once had. When I gave my speech, I didn't talk about revenge or success. I said, sometimes the people who break you are the ones who build you, just not in the way they expected. After the ceremony, a reporter asked, "Why Phoenix?" I smiled. Because ashes are just the beginning. The applause that followed didn't feel like validation. It felt like release. Later that week, while sorting through files at my office, my assistant handed me a white envelope. This came for you. No return address. I turned it over. The handwriting stopped me cold. Lena. Sarah walked in right then. You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe I have. She noticed the letter. You going to open it? Eventually, she crossed her arms. You're scared, I smiled weakly. Maybe I'm just tired. Read it, she said softly. You won't rest until you do. I nodded, tore it open, and began to read. Dear Junaid, I don't know if this will reach you or if you'll even read it. I've left the country. I needed distance from him, from the noise, from the version of myself I can't stand anymore. I heard about your foundation, about what you've built. You deserve it. You always did. Sometimes I think about that night in the rain when I walked away. I wish I had stayed. Not because of your success, but because I finally understand what I gave up. Someone who loved me without conditions. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for every moment I made you doubt your worth. You were right about everything. Pain really is the best teacher. It taught me who I am and who I'll never be again. I hope you find peace, Junaid. Real peace. The kind that doesn't need victory to exist. Lena, when I finished, I sat still, the paper trembling slightly in my hands. Sarah's voice broke the silence. What did she say? That she's gone. Gone where? Somewhere far. Starting over. And how do you feel? I folded the letter carefully. Lighter, she studied me. You're not angry? No, I said. There's nothing left to be angry about. Are you going to reply? I looked at the envelope one last time. No, she tilted her head. Why not? Because some stories don't need epilogues. Sarah nodded slowly. Closure. Peace, I corrected. Closure is about ending things. Peace is about accepting them. She smiled faintly. You've changed, Junaid. I had to. No, she said. You chose to. I met her eyes. Maybe both. That night I sat alone in my office. The city glowed beyond the window, silent and alive. I opened the drawer and placed Lena's letter inside, closing it gently. For a moment, I thought about how everything had come full circle, how pain had forged purpose, how loss had taught love, how failure had built freedom. Sarah knocked on the door. Still here? Just finishing something. She stepped in, smiling. I know that look. You're overthinking again. Not this time. Then what are you doing? Letting go, I said quietly. She leaned against the desk. Finally? Finally, she smiled softly. Then come watch the sunrise with me. You've earned it. We stood by the window as the first light crept over the horizon. The city looked different at dawn, calmer, forgiving. Sarah whispered, Beautiful, isn't it? It is, I said. She glanced at me. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about Khalid. Her smile widened. The man with the greasy hands and all the wisdom? The same, I said. He once told me a pain is a better teacher than success. And was he right? I watched the sun climb higher. Completely, she rested her head on my shoulder. Then maybe class is over, I smiled. Maybe it's just beginning. The light filled the room, warm and soft, washing away the shadows. For the first time in years, I felt weightless. No anger, no regret, no ghosts, just peace.